We are here with Bobbi Ann Brady, independent MPP representing Norfolk, Haldimand County.
Haldimand, Norfolk.
Haldimand, Norfolk. Thank you. I am very happy to have you here. I am pretty sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, you're the first elected MPP in over 100 years.
As an independent.
As an independent.
So, yeah. So I like to clarify the independent thing because there are a bunch of folks who sit around me in the Ontario legislature who are independents, but they went to Queen's Park under a party banner. Mm-hmm. So the Liberal, my Liberal colleagues, there's 9 of them, they're there as a Liberal caucus, but they're considered independents because they haven't formed official, status in the legislature. Mm-hmm. I went to Queen's Park under no party banner previously. So I went there as a true independent and hadn't been done since 1905. And as you can appreciate, wow. I'm sure a campaign in 1905 would be far different than 2022. That
is amazing. And I don't normally talk a lot of politics when I do content. So this is out of the norm for me. I'll tell you where I stand with some stuff to help and just to put it out there. I'm definitely way more blue or right leaning. Mm-hmm. I do not agree with everything on that side. I've told any politician that I talk to that the 3 most important people in my life that I love the most, you just met Robin. Mm-hmm. She's the one lovely. That, yes, owns and operates the company in the house. She's the boss. But her, my mom, and my brother are the people I love more than anything. Amazing. We don't agree on everything.
Nor should you.
Yeah. So let alone like when there's a group of people and you want to be in a group of politics, I'm not personally going to agree with it all. So that's why I really find it awesome that you're in the political game as an independent and you got there on your own. So not knowing a whole lot about politics, I give you tons of credit.
Thank you. And there shouldn't be a monopoly on a good idea, right? And if I'm a representative for a rural area like Haldimand, Norfolk, mm-hmm. and I'm sitting in the same, caucus, whether it's conservative, liberal, NDP, and I'm talking about things in my rural riding, mm-hmm. of course, my colleagues who are more urban may not understand what I'm asking for, or their needs may be different. That's called agreeing to disagree. Yeah. Right? But you're still there. You have to fight for your constituents. And being free of a party is very liberating because I'm not under anyone's thumb. I don't have to stick to anyone's messaging. Mm-hmm. I don't have to listen to anyone but my constituents. And they're the ones who guide me. They're the ones who tell me what I should and shouldn't talk about at Queen's Park. And of course, my constituents don't always agree. I mean, I'm representing people from all, party or partisan ways as well. But one of the things that Haldimand Norfolk has agreed on, and I give them all the credit, we made history last year in Haldimand Norfolk. And people will say to me, the media will say, Bobbi, and how did you do it? Well, I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Nearly 17,000 people did it. Wow. They went to the ballot box.
That's how many votes you got?
Yeah. Well, wow. That's how many were cast, right, in the election. So the majority of those people went to a ballot box, Joe, and they did something they were told never to do. They checked off the independent's name. That is something that do you know how much courage that takes?
A lot.
As an elector, as a voter, as a taxpayer, to go to that ballot box and choose that person, beside the independent box, that takes so much courage. And the credit goes to all those people in Haldimand, Norfolk who were brave enough to say, you know what, we're going to stand up to the man. We're standing up to the institution. We're standing up to the man because we want a politician who's just going to represent our values and what we want, not the party's values, not the party's
it's amazing.
Messaging. It's an incredible story.
It is. Now there's got to be pros and cons to being an independent. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to hear some of both sides of that on how that works, and maybe a little bit closer.
A little bit closer.
You can pull it.
I'm getting too comfortable and I'm backing away.
I like
here,
it. No,
so
you can pull it over.
Yeah, there we go.
However it works. It can go like this. Yeah. Because you have wonderful voice, so we want to make sure we capture it.
Okay.
Well, but yeah, pros and cons because but maybe even also, I imagine some pros that you already mentioned. And like, I don't want to say just my perspective, because I find your whole thing super amazing. Like some pros, definitely, like you said, there's nobody in the political side that can tell you what to do or say or think. I mean, there's influences, but you're on your own with that. But I would imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but some cons might be that it might be hard not being part of a party, sometimes having people listen to you. But I don't know if maybe it is a pro that you're on your own. I don't know.
So, no, I don't have that problem. And I would say that I'm no different than being if you had a member who wasn't part of the government. So if your MPP is a Liberal or an NDP member or a Green Party member, they're still not part of the government. So how am I any different? So everyone is always worried about the government not listening, to their member. Well, we all have to work together. We all have to work towards common goals. And despite what you see in question period, which is a lot of theatrics, so it's a lot of drama, and that's people love watching it for that reason, and it can infuriate people too. But most of the work gets done. Letters, meeting with ministers, having those conversations with ministers. And the one thing that I will say is that I have friends on all sides of the house. I had a 23-year career working for the MPP, the previous MPP, Toby Barrett. And I had friends in the bureaucracy, or I have friends in the bureaucracy. I have friends on the Liberal side. I have friends on the NDP side. And of course, I am a conservative. I'm still a conservative. I still have conservative values.
Interesting.
But at the end of the day, I grew frustrated with the idea that even as a conservative, I would say to my previous boss, why aren't you standing up to that? Why aren't you speaking out against that? Well, we can't because it's a party line. When I started in politics 23, 24 years ago.
Wow. When you were like 6?
I was 5.
I love it.
Anyway, when I started, there wasn't that monopoly on a good idea. There were things like free votes and if there's a private member's bill that an NDP member or one of my Liberal colleagues brings forward that would be good for, say, my farmers or business folks in my riding, why wouldn't I support that? There shouldn't be a monopoly on a good idea. Yeah, and currently in the partisan system, that's what we see. And that's what frustrates the taxpayer, right? So the pros, there's so many pros. And I think the majority of people right now are looking at partisan politics through
that's a term I don't even know.
So partisan politics would be choosing your part. Like, I'm a Liberal, I'm a conservative, I'm an NDP member. Most people just say, I want what's best for the community.
Right.
I don't care what stripe you represent.
I like to hear that.
I want what's best for my community. And I can meet with anyone in, any MPP at Queen's Park and find common ground. I can also, agree with some of my colleagues who are more on the left. I can agree with them on so many things, but I also disagree with them on so many things. And likewise with the conservatives, I should have the ability to disagree and it still be a professional relationship. And so the cons, I don't really know that there are many cons.
Pros outweigh the cons.
The pros
definitely
far outweigh the cons, especially in this current environment. I feel like we have, over the past few years, things really changed for people. And they started looking at the way decision makers were acting. And of course, we see a lot of things, across the border and people pay attention to that. And they're looking at things a little differently than they did in the past. Do
you think we'll see this happening a little bit more? Did you help open the floodgates a little bit, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of people who have contacted me over the past year and a bit who say, Haldimand Norfolk serves as hope because they've lost faith in the current system. They've lost faith in the idea that parties are looking out for their best interest and government's looking out for their best interest. So they say we serve as hope. And I've had people reach out to me saying, hey, how do I run as an independent and win?
Yeah.
And that's a really crazy recipe. How do you win as an independent?
Yeah.
I was very, very fortunate because I had spent 23 years working for an MPP who was so honest and so accommodating and gave me so many opportunities. And I created those friendships. I created those professional relationships with people in the riding over 23 years. So I wasn't just this person who decided to put their name on the ballot.
Right.
I had
experience. Yeah.
Right. I had a lot of experience. I had worked at Queen's Park. I've done every job under the sun, for the party,
Interesting.
for the MPP. So
you've seen a lot.
I have a lot of historical, what do I call that? Institutional knowledge.
Because you've been an MPP now for how long?
Since last June.
So it's just over a year. Is it 4-year terms, or I guess it depends?
Well, so we're in a majority government, so it's a 4-year term.
Gotcha. Yeah. So even though you're new in this position, you've been around for a while and seen a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Because I think I mentioned it to you when we spoke on the phone. And again, thank you for taking my call. Thank you for being here. I don't even know if I thanked you. I'm sorry for that. But there's a possibility at some point that I might get into politics. Well, I say that, I'd have to win my way in. But I say that because over my time in business and politics, they intertwine with each other. And growing up, I had no desire to learn anything politics, because stuff on TV, I don't enjoy consuming politics that way. The stuff I see on TV, for me, and I'm just one person, that it frustrates me, because a lot of the things they put out there, I don't like the way it's put out. I don't know what to believe when stuff's put out there. And when I don't believe something, it makes it harder for me to interpret. So I've never found a big interest in it.
So I would say 2 things. First of all, when you're a child and adults say to you, "Hey, Joe, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Nobody ever says, "I want to be a politician."
No, that's not it.
And I certainly never said that either, right? So
That's
I'm a writer and I took broadcast journalism, but
Interesting.
Yeah. And now I forget the second thing I was going to say. The second thing I was going to say is when you were just trying to convey that you don't like the way that it is portrayed in the media. And I was asked a question recently. There was a bit of a protest at my office, not anything I had done, but just a general protest. And somebody said to me, Bobbi Ann, how did they sneak these things through? How does this get done? Well, nothing's ever snuck through. Everything is there right in front of us. But we, for so long as a society, have counted on the idea that government and media are looking after us. Yeah, it's laughable, isn't it?
That is funny.
It's so funny because they're not.
No, definitely not.
No. And so we have to seek out alternative sources of information and research and things like that.
I like that you say that.
We should have never counted on anyone to be kind of doing our work for us. We have to do our own education. We have to do our own research, and we've got to seek out the truth.
That is a hard thing to do.
It is.
You're saying that, and it's so true, but it's not easy. I've discovered that with getting some of my interests more into politics and just paying attention to things, that there's so much information that it's hard to filter through. And that's why I was getting to one thing, politics in the media does not interest me at all. But when I talk to people like you or other politicians that have genuine conversations with me, I'm like, this stuff is actually interesting, right? I'm not going to say everything, but then you get to hear what's going on from their perspective and what they're seeing versus like what I said, when I see stuff on TV, I'm like, I have no idea what they're trying to convey here. They're saying one thing, but what are they trying to actually...
Well, and we have to remember, you and I had kind of an off-camera discussion about messaging briefly, and messaging is a real thing. And so what we get via the media is exactly what that government, that party, that person wants you to hear.
Yeah.
Not what you want to hear necessarily. They don't give you the answer. They just continually repeat what they want you to hear, what they want you to know.
Is that like propaganda?
Well, it becomes propaganda, right? Yeah. Because it's not honest and it's not genuine.
Totally.
And as a society, we also have to look at ourselves, because if a politician stood in front of a camera, in front of a microphone and said, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but I will get you the answer. we as a society should accept that and go,
That's a good answer.
That's a good answer. But what would we say? We'd say, oh my goodness, they don't know the answer. But actually, if they were being honest and genuine and said, well, would we rather them just give us
I like that
baloney
answer.
information?
I like that answer, and I encourage realtors that work with me here that's a completely valid answer. If you don't know something,
right,
and then find it out as quickly as you can, and then get back to that person. But it's fine not knowing something.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
we can't
like
be
that.
expected to know absolutely everything, right? And yet our minds are trained. They have been trained by media, by government for so long that would be a sign of weakness. No, that's a sign of honesty.
You're smart, eh?
That is what we need to do.
You're smart.
I don't know that I'm smart. I'm a small town girl with some common sense, and common sense isn't so common anymore.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know what common sense even means anymore. I'm not too sure. I don't know what that means.
No.
So being a small town girl, Haldimand, Norfolk, like I've born, raised here in Waynfleet, living here, gonna die here. I've got the plot in the cemetery. I'm Waynfleet through and through. Haldimand is the next door neighbor. Norfolk, is that like a little more west?
Yes.
That's so then that's the area that you cover is out there.
It's a huge geographic area.
It must be.
So to drive from one end to the other is a few hours. Yeah.
Really? And then the population-ish?
Population-ish, I'd have to look that up for you.
30,000?
No, we'd have to look that up, Joe. I don't want to
Get back to me.
yeah, because Caledonia has really grown.
Yeah.
So there's some pockets that have really increased our population, but yeah,
There's 17,000 voters, so not everyone votes.
not
so
everyone
it's greater
votes.
than that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm just trying to calculate right now because I have it all worked out in my head by town.
Right.
That's how I keep track of my
It's all
polls
good.
that I have to win. So
Yeah.
it's a very large geographical area.
So farming
Farming in Norfolk and
Yeah.
in Haldimand, both different types of farming. Though Norfolk was largely known in its heyday for tobacco. So the Delhi, Langton areas were tobacco growing regions, and we still grow tobacco.
Really?
But it's much different than it was, say, 20, 50 years ago.
Interesting.
It's there's been a kind of a decline in the industry over the past 20 years, where there's still a lot of acreage, but the number of farmers has decreased. So you have
Bigger farmers.
You have larger farms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a farmer about that recently because I grew up in Waynfleet, so I've seen that. That's definitely an interesting dynamic how farming's going because, they get into cash cropping and then they get into, acquiring more property to make it more feasible. Yeah, that's definitely an issue. At some point, there is only going to be a couple farmers doing the big stuff, but
Absolutely.
that's down. I don't know how government will handle all that stuff, but I don't know if we have to get into all that because that's a whole other thing.
whole other day.
I don't think we've touched on how you became independent because that's quite remarkable. Did we touch on exactly?
We didn't, no. And it is it's a very interesting story. And I've told it a million times, but I haven't told it in a while. So
you might be getting sick of that question.
No. I think it's important to know how we get somewhere. And the reason I ran as an independent is I was standing up for democracy. I had, as I said, I worked for the previous MPP for over 23 years. And I was the president of the local PC Riding Association for over 20 of those years. And, we had a succession plan. And, it was no secret that, after, as we led up to Toby's retirement, and Toby did inform the Premier's office. This is a key part of the story. In 2018, after the election, Toby sat with the Premier's office and staff and said, "This is my last run. I'm not making this public, but I will be retiring ahead of the 2022 election." And they accepted that, and it was kept quiet. But everyone knew that or thought that Bobbi Ann would follow in Toby's footsteps. That being said, last January-ish, I, as the Riding Association president, I went to the party and I said, "When are we going to have a nomination night?" And a nomination night is if Joe wants to run, Bobbi Ann wants to run, Heather wants to run. We all throw our name in the hat. We all go out, sell memberships, and we have a vote. And whoever wins the election is the nominated candidate within the. You have to have a party membership. So you'd have to have a PC party membership in order to vote in a nomination race.
Okay.
And that's the democratic way of choosing your candidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of inside baseball, and unless you're a party member, you don't know.
Right.
So I went to the party starting in January, and I said, when are we going to have a nomination night? Well, Bobbi Ann, we got to wait. Well, what are we waiting for? Well, COVID's reared its ugly head once again, and we have to wait. Okay. So I bought that. Right. And then, February I went back and they gave me the same kind of story. By March, I knew other ridings were having nomination nights and I couldn't understand what was going on. So I went to Toby and I said, hey, something's wrong here. I'm being told we have to wait and I'm not comfortable with this. So Toby reached out to the premier and said, Bobbi Ann's gone to the party several times and we're not having a nomination night. And so the premier says, well, I'll get back to you. So it was April 9th. I remember the date very well because I had cooked, I don't cook well. And I had cooked dinner for my mom's birthday. And it was a Saturday night and we were just about to sit down to dinner and Toby called and said, I just heard from the premier and he has other plans. We're not going to have a nomination night. And I said, wow, what do you mean we're not going to have a nomination night? He says, well, he's appointing the mayor of Haldimand County. And my first reaction was, but the mayor of Haldimand County has never been seen as a conservative. He actually ran federally as a liberal. So
interesting.
I said, are you playing games with me? I don't have time for games right now.
Joke?
Right? Yeah. So that's what I thought. And Toby said, no, this isn't a joke. So, there was, my mom's birthday was ruined. It was very upsetting. Largely because it's not fair to the people, right? Let's not talk about, sure, I had aspirations, but that's not what this was about. This was about taking away basic democratic rights. How do I, as a riding association president, how do I continue to get people to come to meetings, sit around the table, raise money, but take away their ability to make what they would feel is one of the most important decisions every few years. So you want us to do the work for you, Mr. Party, Mr. Premier, Mr. Ford, whatever, but you want to take away the the most important decision that these volunteers, that these party members make every few years. That's not right.
Don't give them the chance.
Right.
Not the option.
So, we worked for several weeks trying to convince, the premier, listen, no, we want a nomination. If you think your candidate is so great.
Let's have a race.
That's right. Let's duke her out, right?
Yeah.
Let's duke her out. And they said no, flat out no. They didn't even entertain the idea. And I know there were insiders who said, this is a bad idea. This is a really bad idea.
Interesting.
And so one needs to question then who made that decision. If you're being told that this is a bad idea, why was the decision? Why did they continue on?
Right.
Right. That is the $1 million question as far as I'm concerned. And so, when we realized they weren't going to run a nomination, I said, that's fine. I'm going to run as an independent. And I marched into Toby's office one day and I said, that's it. This is what I'm doing.
Wow.
And he says, I think you might be crazy. I said, I think I might be crazy, but I said, it's the right thing to do. I said,
that's awesome.
That the party or the people who are making this decision are taking us for fools. They're taking the people of Haldimand, Norfolk as fools. And it was said to me, this is part of the story. It was said to me a few things. Bobbi Ann, you're crazy. You are going to get less than 5% of the vote. You will commit political suicide.
I've heard that term a lot when people try to do things.
We could run a monkey as long as it has a PC logo on its back and it'll win. So I said to this person, I said, I want you to call me every single day. I want you to call me every single day. And I want you to reiterate that. because it'll make me work longer. It'll make me work harder.
Good.
And I will outwork your candidate 10-1 if you remind me this. And I said, and when I tell the people of Haldimand, Norfolk, what you have told me, Bobbi Ann, as a conservative, is highly offended. What about the average voter when they find out that the party actually thinks that we're that silly?
Yeah. A monkey could win. No shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
So I went out the door every single
Good
day.
for you.
The tough part about running as an independent is, number one, you can't begin campaigning until the writ is dropped. So when they officially call the election, 30 days ahead of time, that's called the writ dropping. So you can't start until the writ drops.
As an independent?
As an independent.
The others can?
They can. Yeah. Because
why can they start?
Because they belong to a party. So Elections Ontario rules are very, very cumbersome. But they were out there knocking on doors. They were out there raising money. I couldn't do either until the election had been officially called. So I'm sitting there going, let's go.
I got to ask this. You're awesome.
Oh.
I don't know how far we're in. You're awesome. Oh. What does campaigning even mean? Because this is where I see a couple of the interesting lines between politics and my business. Because what's interesting, I'll just paint a little bit of picture with real estate. We have a ton of regulating guidelines when we do advertising, right? If we say anything to do with real estate, we have to put our brokerage name up there. It has to be so big, font size, what's more prominent, phone number, address, asterisks, all this shit, right? And like, I went on my own. This is my own company, started about 4 years ago, and I've always found it interesting with that. But there is a little bit of ways around marketing. Like you've seen some of, I don't know if you've looked at any of my pizza reviews.
I have, of course. I thought there'd be pizza here today, Joe.
I dropped the ball on that one. You want me to order one?
No.
I'll get one here in 20 minutes.
No.
Maybe later. But that's one of the things, like when I do a pizza review, I don't need to say I'm Joe Gonzalez from Right Choice. I'm broker of record, all this. So just leading into, there's, for me, ways that I'm able to market myself, the community and everything without following all of the million advertising guidelines. But I don't know if in politics, I don't know what's considered like campaigning. If anybody decided to start saying, I don't know what you can and can't say, like with the ball drop of that 30-day. I'm just a little bit interested in that part.
What you can and cannot do. So you can't go door to door. So I wouldn't be able to knock on your door and say, hey, Joe, I'm Bobbi Ann and I'm running as an independent. I need your vote on election day.
Could you say I'm Bobbi Ann? Nice to meet you.
Probably not.
That's starting to get into the gray.
Yeah. So, and you can't put up lawn signs. So, the lawn signs that, everyone thinks votes.
What color is your color? I was going to put up your...
Yeah, so right now, like my signs during the election were almost like a dark navy, almost black. And I'll tell you why. I had a heck of a time getting somebody to print my lawn signs. And I think it's because there's the monopoly, right? You have the big companies who print lawn signs who are going, oh no, we've got an independent. And what happens if it takes off the big party that we're running signs for?
Yeah.
So I waited a long, long time for my lawn signs, to the point where, I was getting very, very nervous that they were never going to show up. And I think I was being fed some lines from some people. So anyway, they were a dark navy, almost black. And
I can change the backlight. Now I didn't ask you before we started. I didn't know.
Good.
So I went with a neutral, like light gray, blue almost.
It's wonderful.
Okay.
So yeah, 2026, not sure what color they'll be, but, I am a fiscal conservative, so I will be using some of those signs that I had up in 2022 and reusing those because they're expensive.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, I couldn't begin campaigning until the writ dropped. So that was
interesting.
That's
a
tough.
Disadvantage. That's a huge disadvantage.
Huge disadvantage.
When can they start as being a part of a party?
As soon as they're kind of they're registered as a candidate through their party. So they register as a candidate through their party. Yeah. And then the party registers with Elections Ontario, and away they go.
So can they start like a month, 2 months, 3 months
whenever they're a nominated candidate? So
it could be 6 months. You're at a huge disadvantage as an independent.
So that is taken care of now.
Oh, nice.
So I have formed my own association, and now I am just I'm treated like a party.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
So, but originally I couldn't do that because I wasn't established yet as a candidate,
So,
right? So
if things continue, I don't even want to get into future stuff yet, but if they did, you'd be able to start on an even keel as other people.
Absolutely.
Oh,
so they
that's good.
set it up like I feel like the election financing rules are actually kind of stacked against anyone who wants to run as an independent. You're not on the same playing field until obviously you're kind of elected and you start building your own association, right? So that was a bit of a tough go. And then the other interesting thing was I wasn't given a policy binder. So every candidate, for a major party or any party that they represent would be given policy notes for debates. And all candidates' nights. So they sit there with their binder and somebody from the crowd says, hey, I want to know how you feel about the investments in long-term care, or I want to know how you feel about saving, Ontario's most productive farmland. Hot topics.
Yeah.
And they would flip to the page in their binder that had the answer from the party on it.
Oh, cheat sheet.
Right, because many candidates have never been a politician. They've never been an MPP. They don't have all this institutional knowledge in their head. So the party sets them up with what's called a briefing binder.
Gotcha.
And so,
interesting.
So Bobbi Ann had no briefing binder. She had 23 years of experience and knowing what the community wanted and what they expected. So that was one of the things that during the campaign, I burned the midnight oil a lot because, I had all these debates to go to, all candidates. And I got an itch. And so I would burn the midnight oil coming up with my policy based on 23 years of listening to the people of Haldimand, Norfolk. So, that was a lot of work. And I literally had 30 days to do that. Wow. Right? So
you've done debates before.
I did debates during that campaigin.
Interesting. Interesting.
And then I did well. You
won.
I won. Yeah.
You did great.
But and a lot of that goes back to the fact that I had the institutional knowledge. I understood my community. I understood what they expected from their politician and what their needs were.
Something aside from independent or not, what's it like when you're working on something or a decision has been made that people within your community disagree with? Because anything that you work on or you're part of, there's people that are for it and against, right? There's no decision that everybody's for.
No.
Right? So that's one of the things that I find must be tough is when you're part of a decision or a belief or whatever, and there's people, because there's just like I mentioned before, people could agree with a bunch of things, but then something happens. What's that like dealing with people when they get a little hot under the collar?
So luckily I haven't had too much of that.
Nice.
But I think, I'm very honest and genuine in my approach that I can't be all things to all people all of the time. We can't do that. And if we are doing that, we're being disingenuous.
Totally.
Right? So we can't be all things to all people all the time. And I think it's just indicative of the type of people that I represent. They're good people who say, you know what, Bobbi Ann's doing the best she can. She's representing us to the best of her abilities. We're not always going to agree. And that's okay.
But you're a great representation of the people.
They see me all the time, right? They see me out at community events. One of the things that a few weeks ago, it was a bit of an interesting day. I start the day off and I have this email from a reporter that I've never heard of, a media outfit I've never heard of. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And they were asking about my voting record at Queen's Park.
Oh,
and this got sent to a number of my colleagues, and some of my colleagues said, I didn't answer it. Oh, I did. I took the opportunity. And actually it was something that I was working on anyway, because I was thinking about, I'm going to explain when I go to Queen's Park. I'm going to explain why I go to Queen's Park, because there's something called return on investment. And you would know that in the business that you're in. And there's a lot of taxpayers out there who are not getting a good return on investment in their politician. And I'll tell you why. I sit at Queen's Park amongst, all my colleagues, but it is a super majority government in play at Queen's Park in Ontario. Mm-hmm. That means that all of the NDP, all of the Liberals, Mike Schreiner, myself, can all show up, and we will never, ever defeat a vote. We'll never defeat the Conservatives because they've got a super majority government.
Super majority.
Right. And they remind us of that every single day. And so, if there's something being voted on or there's something being debated at Queen's Park that does not affect Haldimand Norfolk, mm-hmm. why would you want me sitting there as a warm body in a seat doing absolutely nothing?
Yeah.
When I can be in the riding, mm-hmm. meeting with people who, then I'm writing to cabinet ministers and saying, hey, we've got this problem with, families with children, with vulnerable children. We have our long-term care homes aren't being built. Like, I'm constantly meeting with people. That is more productive and means more to the people of Haldimand Norfolk than sitting in my chair in Queen's Park just filling time. That's not a good return on investment.
Yeah.
And so, sure, am I there voting every single day? Am I there debating every day? No, because it's a moot point.
Yeah. So this is something that I don't completely understand either, is the schedule of an MPP in Queen's Park. Uh-huh. This is like, I'm just learning a lot of stuff as we mm-hmm. go. I didn't even know that like MPPs went there weekly and was there. Is it Monday to Thursday?
Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that. Until a couple weeks ago, I didn't know the difference myself between Queen's Park and Parliament. Mm-hmm. Something I just learned this week was the difference between Conservatives at a federal level and Conservatives at a provincial level. Because at a provincial, it's progressive Conservative.
Right.
I didn't even know that until this week.
Yeah. They should align value-wise and principle-wise, right? But they're still kind of two different groups.
They're different,
right? But
they're close?
They're very close, of course. So
but not the same.
Usually if you're a provincial Conservative, then you would likely, if you're right-minded, you're right-minded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Left-minded, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the schedule is Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
And
it's Queen's Park, so that's like 10-ish or 11 or whatever till 4.
So debate starts normally at 9. And
is that question period or not?
No.
Okay, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit, even when you're a new member, it takes you a little bit to...
Yeah.
And keep in mind, yes, sure, I worked for Toby for 23 years, but it was Toby going in the house. Mm-hmm. And the house is a bit of a secret place. Like, there's quirks and things that happen there that... you don't really know unless you're a member.
Right.
And so debate typically starts at 9. Mm-hmm. And then at 10:15, we do what's called member statements. Mm-hmm. And member statements is 90 seconds. So if I wanted to talk about, a good project in my riding, or if I wanted to get something on record, it can be anything. I have 90 seconds to stand up and talk about it. 4
times a week.
Nope. So parliamentary privilege, it is all timed out. So you will say I did a statement on a Monday. Mm-hmm. I think it's 8 days or it changes depending on how many independents there are. Mm-hmm. So, but like say every 8 or 11 days, I can get up again and say another member statement. So there's the clerks are the ones who guide us. They're the brains of the operation at Queen's Park. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who figure out when we can speak. But you can't get up every day because there's not enough time.
Yeah.
So it's only 15 minutes. So member statements goes from 10:15 to 10:30. And at 10:30, the Speaker of the House says, okay, it is now time for introduction of visitors. So if you were in the gallery, I would say, thank you, Speaker. I rise today to recognize Joe, and Joe's from Wayne.
I get a recognition for visiting?
You can, for
That's
sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm going for a visit soon. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so,
interesting.
Normally your own MPP will introduce you.
Yeah.
I had a situation a few weeks ago where another MPP introduced one of my constituents. I didn't look fondly upon that. So normally, like unless there's, some sort of circumstance where somebody else should be introducing that person, that's what happens. So then once introduction of visitors is done, and that can, sometimes there's not very many visitors. So introduction of visitors goes very quickly. Other times, it can go 10 minutes, right? And then we have to ask for extra time. Once introduction of visitors is done, if there's any points of order or whatever, you stand up. But typically we go right into a question period.
Okay.
And question period is an hour. 60 minutes on the clock.
And even, I want to rewind just a little bit. You said the first hour is debate. What does that even mean?
Oh, okay. So debate is bill. So if the government brings forward a bill and you have to have a certain number of hours of debate on every single bill before it can go to, so there's first reading of the bill. So that has so many hours, second reading, third reading, and then royal assent. So once a bill passes third reading, it then goes for royal assent and it's made into law.
So during that debate, there's somebody controlling it. Like is that the person at the front of the room?
The speaker
is controlling the debate, because that could get out of hand.
So debate normally doesn't get out of hand. It's question period that gets out of hand. Debate is largely when you turn on the TV, turn on, either the federal level or the provincial level, and you see someone stand there and they're reading their paper and your eyes are glazing over.
Gotcha.
That's debate.
Gotcha.
It's not really debate. It's just people going on and on and on, 20-minute speech, a 12-minute speech, a 6-minute speech on how they feel about the legislation.
And that's a combination of they feel and what their constituents have. Maybe
not.
It's just, okay.
So if it's a government bill, then the government's standing there saying why you have to vote in favor, why we should all vote in favor of it and all the good things about it. Mm-hmm. When the opposition gets up to talk about it, it'd be like, well, I'm not supporting this bill because of A, B, C, and D. It's actually going to be detrimental, whatever.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's how the debate works. So it's more of a calm debate versus one that gets a little bit heated.
And keep in mind, in a super majority government, you can debate until the cows come home. Nothing's going to change. They're still going to get their way. The only way of actually kind of hoping for any change, if there's a bill and there's some real problems with it, is sometimes they're referred to committee, and then the committee will dissect them, and then you can put forward recommendations, and then if the government accepts the recommendations, then the legislation kind of changes. You can make changes that way. That's always a good thing.
Gotcha. And then question period, you said, is from what time to what time again?
So typically it's supposed to start at 10:30, but depending on the number of visitors that are there, it can start 10:40, 10:45, and it runs exactly an hour. Mm-hmm. And then question period, I just for the first time watched one. It was actually a parliament one. Mm-hmm. Like I said, just getting my feet a little bit wet with politics stuff. But question period, what is that designed for? What's that all about? So question period, well, people think it's actually to get answers.
Right.
But keep in mind, it's called question period, not question and answer period.
Right.
So it's the opportunity to stand up and ask cabinet ministers. I'll give you one example that I've asked the question about numerous times because it's a safety issue, is the reconstruction of the Caledonia Bridge on Argyle Street in the town of Caledonia. Mm-hmm. The bridge is over 125 years old. It is in very, very bad shape and it needs to be reconstructed. And it was supposed to be reconstructed already, but for whatever reason, they're not beginning construction. So it's my ability to stand up and say, thank you, Speaker. I rise today to ask the Ministry of Transportation when reconstruction of the Argyle Street Bridge in Caledonia will begin. And I will give all the reasons. I've got maybe about 55 seconds to get my question out and to kind of give the background and lay the groundwork and then ask the question. And then the minister will stand up and say, well, I thank the member opposite for her question. And, we've got this, that, and the other that we're doing. And they'll talk about usually things that don't even pertain to your question. And then they'll sit down and then you have what's called the supplementary. And the it's another question. So you can then go back at them and, ask the question in a different way or, kind of move on to another angle of questioning on that same subject. But it's to get things on record and it's to draw attention to things in your writing. So you may not get an answer, right? You may not get the answer.
Which sounds like often.
all the time.
Right.
But what it does is it opens up, oh, wow, this is now on public record. If that bridge falls down and I'm the cabinet minister, she's now questioned me 3 times about this.
Yeah.
This doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Gotcha.
and then, the best bet is to always walk across the floor, on something like that, and then have those conversations with a cabinet minister. Last week, there was a cabinet minister that I needed to speak to, and she was so gracious, right? She took the information I had, and my staff followed up with her staff, and in 2 days we had an answer. And that's how you get things
impressive.
done, right?
Yeah.
It is. That's a good cabinet minister.
Yeah.
And, that's not how it always works, but that's how it should work. So question period is largely about getting things on record. And then you hold them to that, right? So if they say something in question period, the former Minister of Transportation made a comment when I asked about the Caledonia Bridge. There was something to the effect of, oh no, it's all okay. The bridge is suitable for some traffic. Some, meaning not everyone.
Right.
Right. And so I have that on record because I couldn't believe that the minister actually admitted that. And I said, I don't think you quite understand. It's not some traffic that is traversing that bridge. It is the entire, town of Caledonia. It's the entire county of Haldeman County going to work every single day. Many people are going across that bridge several times a day. This is not some traffic.
Right.
Right. So then you've got that information because it's important, right? To hold them to account that, look, no. Maybe a bureaucrat has given you this information as the cabinet minister, but as the cabinet minister, as the person who's going to be the headline, if that bridge collapses, responsible, right?
Yeah.
If you're the one who's going to be responsible, you damn well better know how much traffic is crossing that bridge.
Yeah, totally. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So then after question period, and this water's for you too, if you want some.
Thank you. I'm jazzing myself up on this fancy coffee.
I like it.
Yeah.
After question period, is it the day over or is there more stuff?
No. So then the House either comes back at 1, depending on the day. So it's either a 1 o'clock restart or a 3 o'clock restart. Mm-hmm. And then there's, petitions. There's a whole host of kind of like business that we clean up at the beginning. And then it goes into more debate on bills. Gotcha.
So that's a typical day up
until
at Queen's
6.
Park.
Yep.
Until 6. And that runs Monday to Thursday. Somebody, like you mentioned, it's not always good to be there, but there is an amount that everybody does have to go there.
Only if you belong to a party.
Gotcha.
So you have what's called house duty. I don't have house duty because I don't have to worry. Yeah. So house duty is right now, house duty would only be super important to the super majority government.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have enough people, so if a vote is called and they didn't have enough, say I was there and Mike Schreiner was there and the Liberals were there and the NDP were there, and they didn't have enough conservatives sitting across from us to defeat they'd be caught with their pants down, right?
That doesn't happen, but it could. Yeah,
it could. So that's why they have house duty, so that they have an assured number of people
to win,
to always win.
Yeah, interesting. Politics is so interesting.
Yeah, there's all these little things, right, that people don't realize.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, I've learned a little bit too that there's a whole bunch of different committees that are out there.
Yes.
Are you part of committees and like?
Yeah.
Okay, because even there's so much stuff. Like you're talking about stuff. Something you mentioned that I have no idea is, I think you said cabinet minister. I don't even know what that means.
So a cabinet minister would be the Minister of Transportation, the Solicitor General, the Minister of Education. So they're the top dog in the ministry.
Are they elected or appointed?
Yes. Well, so they're an elected MPP, and they are given the role by the Premier's office.
Gotcha. So then, elected, then appointed. Interesting. And then with that, they have different responsibilities. I'm guessing they get paid more.
They do.
Yeah. So
So forgive me.
Pros and cons.
Yeah. So one of the questions I always get when I go into schools to do school talks is how much does an MPP make?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the base salary, my salary is $116,000, $116,500. So that's the base salary. And then it goes up from there. I don't have any ability to make more than $116,500 because I can't be a cabinet minister. I can't be what's called a parliamentary assistant. So a parliamentary assistant is an elected member, but is kind of the associate minister. So if the cabinet minister can't attend an event or an announcement or whatever, then the associate minister would step in. They both make more money. And forgive me, a lot of them, the numbers have changed.
It's all good.
So I'm not sure how much extra they make, but it's significant on top of their $116,500.
Now, to some people, a lot of people, well, $116,500 is a good wage, but you have expenses that come along with that, right? Like,
yeah, so our expenses are covered. So there is a budget. Most MPPs stay in Toronto. They have an apartment downtown Toronto. I don't. I drive home. So when I go to Toronto, I come home. So my mileage is paid.
Who pays that? How does that work?
So it's all through the Legislative Assembly. You as a taxpayer pay it. Okay. So that goes back to my whole thing as well about, if I, it's actually an easier day. When I go to Toronto, I drive there, I sit in my seat, I do my thing, and I come home.
Yeah.
When I'm in the riding, I'm running all over, right?
Yeah.
I'm going here, there, and everywhere. So
meeting with people.
Quite honestly, if I'm being honest to the elector, it's a much easier day to go sit in Toronto. But is it fair? Is it fair to you as a taxpayer to pay your politicians gas there and back for no good reason?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And see, I wasn't sure how that worked because I didn't know, one, if it got covered or if it was by the party or if it was by...
No, people think it's by the party. And people say that to me. Oh, wow. How do you pay your staff? Well, the same way every other MPP pays their staff, through the Legislative Assembly, all through the taxpayer.
Gotcha. So I didn't know that. I didn't know if like parties got subsidized or whatever for staffing because even though you're amazing, you have people that help you with things.
Of course, I have amazing staff.
Yeah, that's pretty key. And so you get help for that from whatever you said that was, not...
The Legislative Assembly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the Legislative Assembly,
So that definitely helps.
Right. Yeah, they have a finance department.
But I'm sure they're... Like, it can't cover everything. Like, I don't even know what expenses would be covered or not. I just...
Yeah, so they pay for our office. They pay for our staff.
So you can have
they pay
an
for
office.
our travel.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
See, that's because I was thinking like if you had to pay that too, that would get chew up a lot.
Oh,
of everything.
I'd be in the poorhouse.
Exactly, because nothing's cheap.
But as a member, we have to be cognizant too,
Totally.
right? That at the end of the day, you and I are both taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer, so treating taxpayers' dollars with respect is paramount.
Yeah,
because there is only one taxpayer. Whether it's a municipal cost, whether it's a provincial cost, a federal cost, it's you and I who pay it.
Yeah.
Nobody else. There's no magic pot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
now maybe I'd like to pivot into like if somebody would be considering to get into politics, like if somebody's considering to go get into politics, what are some tips you give to somebody? Because you had all that experience. Like myself, I had a conversation with a friend recently saying, there's a time in my life I might get into politics. And if I did, I said that I was considering independent. They said, good luck.
Yeah, right? No, you've got a great opportunity to be an independent. Why? Because you are involved in your community. People know you. I mean, I was at a lunch yesterday and mentioned your name and they knew who you were.
That's awesome.
In my riding,
That's
right?
Awesome.
So that's what you need. You need that name recognition. You need to be seen as kind of a mover and shaker in the community. And somebody with, the level head, and you're not real radical or drastic.
Right.
You got to be a good listener. I think that someone like you would be a great independent candidate.
Thank you for me, but even other people. So other people in general, somebody's thinking about getting into it. What are some things like people ask me, I'll start with when people ask me, I'm thinking about getting into real estate, because I get that a lot from a lot of people. I think there's some similarities there too. It's a lower entry to barrier to get in, right? Like to be a realtor, all you need is a high school diploma.
Right.
And then you take the real estate courses, and you can, which is it's not a college degree. It's not a university degree. It's pretty easy to get into real estate, but it's not something that a lot of people have success at. So when people ask me, I'm like, have you ever worked for yourself? Right? Like, have you ever been in sales? Some people think like when you're a realtor, you're running your own business, right? It's a very small form of running a business. You become a one-person operation, but you have to do all of the things that is involved with it. So when people ask me, like, it's kind of like a loaded question, but I ask people, I'm like, do you have some experience? But I don't know. Yeah, that, like, you had a ton.
Yeah, and not everybody does.
Yeah.
There's people who, Randy Hillier was a PC MPP for a long time, and he was a bit of a controversial guy, great guy, but he was an electrician.
Why was he controversial?
Shot from the hip? You just have to, you'd have to look Randy up. And he just comes to mind because I remember he was an electrician, right?
Gotcha.
There's lawyers, there's doctors, there's electricians. You don't have to have a political science background. And, but what you do need is, you should have a strong work ethic for anything, but you have to enjoy being out all the time. Most of my work is done when other people are coming home, eating supper and watching Netflix. I know folks who have gotten into the political gig, especially at the municipal level, and, they say, I don't like going out after dark. Well, then why did you sign up for this? Because most of our work is after dark, right? What we do during the day, what I do if I go to Toronto, what I do there, as you have already kind of articulated to the audience, most people don't understand what happens at Queen's Park.
Right.
Right? And nor do they care.
Right.
But what they do care about is their politician coming and sitting beside them at a dinner so that they can tell their politician, hey, listen, Bobbi Ann, I'm having a hard time making ends meet. I can't pay the groceries. I can barely pay the mortgage. I can't pay rent. I can't find a place to rent. That's what they care about. They care about how they're being impacted. So you have to go out in the community after dark. You have to go out into the community on weekends, or you have no touch of reality.
Totally. And I imagine sorry to interrupt you.
No.
But I imagine there is a bunch of politicians on different levels that are not in sync with what's going on.
So I call it hiding. And it's one of the things that I talked about when I addressed this whole, this strange interview request on voting records. And I said, I see politicians. I've seen politicians over my career who go to Queen's Park and they're happy to be there Monday to Thursday. You know why? Because they don't have to go sit beside Joe at a dinner and hear, the struggles.
Yeah.
They're at Queen's Park where everything is hunky dory.
Yeah.
And 6 o'clock comes, whatever. And they go back to their apartment and watch TV, or they go see a movie or whatever. I call it hiding. And the last thing I ever want to do as the MPP for Haltom and Norfolk, I'm never going to hide.
That's awesome.
Right? Those are the folks who
I believe you when you say that too. I have believed everything you said so far. I appreciate that. Yeah. Very genuine.
Yeah. Thank you.
When people do have an apartment or whatever up there, is that covered?
Yes, it is. So there's a budget for that.
Gotcha.
It used to be $24,000 a year, I believe, for the budget for an apartment. But I think it recently increased. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm bad at remembering numbers today for some reason, Joe. It must be because it's the end of the day. I'm having a hard time with numbers. But
so somebody's not staying in an apartment like yourself. Do you get a credit for not using that, or that's just money that doesn't?
No, it's money that goes unused. So
gotcha.
This coming week, I have a really busy week coming up in Toronto. and I'm on committee. So going back to committee, I was on the
yeah,
finance
yeah.
committee, and the fact that I'm really bad at numbers
No,
today,
it's all right.
maybe this is the reason why I'm not on finance committee, but I'm on social policy committee,
Yeah.
and I'm really looking forward to that. But I have committee meetings Tuesday from 3 to 7, and then I have to be back. I would have to leave my house at 5 o'clock the next morning. So I'm like, normally I would drive back, but
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay the night. Right. So I can use some of that, or I can use that pocket of money for a hotel room. Right. But it's the first time since last June.
Wow.
I've used a hotel room.
Sounds like you're pretty responsible
stay.
with your
Right.
budget there.
I always want to be responsible with other people's money. I know what it's like to struggle. Right. I've been a single mom. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. And if we all had this attitude of, well, I'm just going to get whatever, you and I as the taxpayer would be paying
I give you a lot of credit for that.
a lot more.
Yeah, I give you a lot because I imagine there's people abusing those privileges. I'm not trying to make accusations. I can just imagine.
Or they're not abusing. They may not be abusing, but they may not give it a second thought.
Right.
So,
Free, easy money.
I was going over with my comms guy in Toronto today. He's the one he lives in Toronto. And I said to him, I was looking last night, the cost of a hotel room in Toronto right now is crazy. Like I feel guilty. I feel guilty booking a room. Right. So, it's what we're paying is still crazy. It's crazy money to stay over. And that's why I wouldn't do it very often. But this is one of those times where
it's
I'm
justifiable.
like, you know what? it just doesn't make sense for the taxpayer to pay for me to go home and then a few hours later, turn around and come back, right? So, it's going to cost a little bit more for me to stay there, but it's kind of a little bit of my sanity, and I have to be sharp. I have to when I get back in the car at 5 o'clock in the morning. I should be rested.
I don't. You don't have to justify that even a quarter percent to me. You don't. To me, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I mean, one, if you're not using it every day, and you're doing the commute. And that's definitely saving money and costing you time because of whatever responsibilities and however you want to operate it. To me, it's not even a second thing. It seems like you're making good decisions for that.
Well, and like I say, I think we need to, sometimes we can forget where we came from. And the salary that I'm making now is I'm very blessed. I'm grateful for what I've been chosen to do. It's a calling. I believe it's a calling, but I'm very grateful for the money that I make. But I'm never going to forget where I came from because there are so many people who struggle. There's so many people who bust their hump every single day and can't get ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know how specific we want to get on conversations, but I want to bring up one where when I look at government as a whole, and as I learn it's not a whole, but where I think myself, and I imagine if you're conservative, you look at it this way too, but where I see like some of the biggest problems in the government is misuse of funds and how money is spent poorly. And like you're talking, like right now, it's making me think about how you're doing a great job. But like when I look at, it seems like there's so much bloat in like a lot of government, and like there's a lot of overlap, and there's a lot of people not creating value.
Right. So it goes back to that return on investment, and we know. We can see it. Government will stand up and say, we're spending an unprecedented, amount of money and no other government has ever spent this kind of money. And that's great. But what are we getting for it? Right. So if our ER wait times continue to increase, if we don't have any more long-term care spaces, if we're not actually getting shovels in the ground to build houses, where's the money going? So it's fine and dandy to say, yeah, we're spending an unprecedented, amount of money. But if you're not getting a return on that money,
True that.
You and I are being messed as the taxpayer. And we see it in so many instances. And I sat on the finance committee up until a week and a half ago. And I did pre-budget consultations across Ontario last year. We have the committee goes across, the province and conducts what we call pre-budget consultations. So people come to us and say, this is what we want in the spring budget. It's fascinating work. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I would say to some folks, some people who showed up and who would say, oh, we need more money for this. We need more money for that. And I would say to them, but last year, your budget increased by this much, and yet you're telling me that you're not seeing any better results. That seems like an administration issue to me. That doesn't seem like a money issue to me. And I think government has to have the political will to stand up to some of these folks and say, listen, you know what? You need to do better. We're giving you this money.
Totally. Money doesn't solve all problems.
No.
Myself, just a little guy running a small company here. This is where there's a little bit of a challenge, I think, in politics. Because when I look at it, and please correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but when I look at it from the federal level, all they're doing is really deciding where money goes. I shouldn't say only, but it seems like, okay, let me word it. It seems like a big portion of it is.
Right. What they're going to funnel down to the provinces.
Yeah. And then at provincial level, I'm not too sure. But like to me, when I run my business, I could get an injection today of $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. It's not going to make my business better. Like to me, how my business, this small business run out of the basement of my wife's house gets better. It's by the people that work for me, with me, get better at what they do to help people. And it's it's better. It's improving, making improvements. And that seems like it's a hard thing to do at scale. Like this company will always be small, because to me, the most important thing is having people that work here that do what's best for the people that we service.
You're 100% right. And we used to talk about this all the time, that government should run government like we run our homes, like we run our small businesses. Imagine if you ran your small business or you ran this home like government runs. No, you'd be in the poorhouse.
I would not be here.
That's right, 100%. Yeah. So why don't we do that? And I think it goes back to, I was going to mention this earlier, is that there's a lot of silo building. So meaning that let's use mental health and kind of the vulnerable people as an example. There's all these services, but they're disjointed. So you have these folks under this roof doing this. And in many cases, even someone like me who has all the resources at my fingertips, I have a hard time going, well, this is where you should go. Why isn't that seamless? Why don't we have all those services under one roof instead of all these groups coming to government every year saying, I need this percent, I need a 4% increase to my budget, I need this, this, and this. Why aren't we making it seamless? Why aren't they all under one roof?
Can I answer some of it? Yeah. This is fun because this is part of why I think, and this is, I don't think, going to be a popular talking point, but I think that there is a lot of people in government jobs that are able to convince other people that they need more people
to justify their existence.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of not value getting created. And that, from what I've seen, is so hard to fix.
That's right. Because as soon as you try to fix it, then certain groups say they're cutting. They're cutting, right?
Yeah, and it's not targets, and
right. And then people, and then the fear mongering begins. They're cutting services. No. We're just making efficiencies. Efficiencies doesn't always mean we're going to cut services, right? And the Conservatives have battled that since the beginning of time.
I imagine.
Yeah,
I imagine, and that's a tough thing. And I've seen it just too, because sometimes like. Okay, please again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you
haven't been wrong yet, Joe.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell my wife.
Robin may say something different.
Tell my wife, please. But you have to depend yourself on, I imagine, on people that are employees of the government for helping you with information, accomplishing things.
The bureaucracy, largely.
Yeah. But then, I'm guessing, this is like my outside look in, where there's people that you depend on and that help you. And then sometimes that person that's helping you, you might realize isn't complete, like creating absolute value in their position or in their group of people. And then that's where did you use a term is that a term or something? I don't even know, but like you're going to this person, let's call it Sally. I hope there's not a Sally that this actually relates to. Sally, I need some help. Can you get me some information on something? And it takes her 6 days to get it to you, but then she gets it. Yeah, she gets it to you and she helps you, and it actually helps you accomplish. But it took fucking 6 days.
Yeah.
And then what else was happening during that time? And then next time you talk to Sally, she tells you she needs an assistant because she's overworked.
100%.
Am I talking some stuff that's going on?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you absolutely
Sorry
are.
for swearing.
Oh, that's okay. We swear in Hallam and Norfolk too sometimes.
Okay.
So, it does. This is part of the problem.
Yeah.
It is part of the problem. And I believe that the pandemic exacerbated that. This whole idea that, the employee used to do what the employer wanted them to do. I employ you. This is what I expect from you, right? The pandemic kind of created this atmosphere where the employee is now calling the shots, not the employer. And we're all employees of a sort, right? But we got to get back to going, okay, you know what? What is best for our society? What is best for our community? Me making demands as, an individual is only making things harder. And, there's a lot of people out there who, they're in jobs, and they have to justify their existence. And that's what they do in a day. They justify their job. And it's just a bad deal for us. It really is. And, but like I say, if you start talking about cleaning that stuff up, you run into problems because people all of a sudden go, oh, wait a minute.
Totally.
That spot has become redundant. That means that we're not going to get service. No. You haven't been getting service, right? You've just had somebody justifying their existence. We're just going to make it, more efficient for you as the taxpayer.
Yeah.
But that's not how opposition, and that's where party politics comes into play, right? So, you have a government, doesn't matter who it is, who says, we're going to do A, B, and C. And despite the people sitting across the way who are in opposition, despite how they feel, they may actually go, some of them might go, yeah, that's a damn good idea. But we're not allowed to say it's a damn good idea.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's how we've gotten into the problems that we're in.
So, if we're going to peel that back, you're the first elected and independent MPP in 100-ish years or whatever. Was it more common way back in the day? Like, I don't know the history of politics.
So it would have been, and they, they would have, maybe belonged to a party. But politics, even, up until I'd say recent, and don't ask me what recent is, because I don't really know recent in my head, but there were things called free votes. And, if there was a private member's bill, we'll use mine, for example. I had a private member's bill last winter that aimed to create a committee that would look at the development on Ontario's most productive land. So I feel at 319 plus acres every day being eaten up in some fashion, largely because of development, it's too much. If we're going to bring folks to Ontario and we're going to give them a home and things like that, that's nice, but we better be able to feed them. Because if we can't feed them, we're in big trouble. It all becomes a moot point. What's the point of having a house? What's the point of coming here if we can't feed them? So, and as a farm girl, I'm very worried about our most productive land.
I grew up on a farm too.
Yeah. So I had members of the government who knew who their constituents were telling them, you better vote for MPP Brady's bill.
What was the bill exactly? Or how it would
it was to save Ontario's most productive land.
So
it was a private member's bill. So every once in a while, you're allowed to bring forward what's called a private member's bill, but it can't be related to money. So your ideas within your bill can't cost the taxpayer anything.
Okay.
So this wouldn't have cost anything. So my point on this is that that is a bill that should be attractive, sexy to all rural MPPs, regardless of their political stripe. And it was, of course it was, because I had conservatives say to me, I really like your bill. My constituents want me to vote for your bill.
I can't do it.
But I can't vote for your bill.
That sucks.
That's terrible. And
That is terrible.
Years ago, they would have been able to, right?
Vote against the party.
Well, they're not voting against the party. They're voting for a good idea, right? It's a private member's bill. It's not partisan.
So
saving Ontario's most productive land should not be a partisan issue.
I agree. So now what? So is that how it works, that people will not vote against the party? It's like unanimous?
You won't vote in favor of somebody else's private member's bill unless they're within your own party.
Yeah.
That is tragic.
That is. It's tragic.
That's terrible. That is saying that just because you belong to somebody belongs to another party, they have no good ideas. It's bonkers.
It's all, is corruption a bad word?
See what?
Is that a bad word?
Yeah, I don't know. See what your coffee is doing to me. It's making me excitable. Yeah, so it's firing me up. But it is bonkers. And
totally.
This is what the taxpayer is starting to see that, right? There was a private member's bill last week in the Ontario legislature that I voted in favor of. It was one of my Liberal colleagues. And it was about nursing agencies. So Ontario right now, these nursing agencies were established, and it's kind of a double-edged sword because hospitals and healthcare institutions can't really deal without the nursing agencies as they exist now, because they've come to rely on them for extra help in the hospital when people call in sick, things like that. But the nursing agencies have also taken some of our good staff from hospitals, from healthcare institutions, because they're more flexible. So instead of working a 12-hour shift, you may work a shorter hour shift. You don't have to work nights. You have more flexibility. And so the private members bill actually called on some like tighter regulations on nursing agencies so that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul in the healthcare system. It's a good private members bill. And of course the government knows that it's a good private members bill, but it gone.
Yeah,
And some of my, some folks that I have met with since then in the healthcare industry have said, it's too bad because, it wasn't going to eliminate nursing agencies because we can't eliminate them because we now rely on them.
Right.
But it would have tightened things up to a point where we wouldn't be creating the chaos that they're currently creating. And as a young nurse, why wouldn't I go for that option, right? Why wouldn't I go work for the nursing agency? I mean, in the long term, there's no benefits, there's no pension, that type of thing. But if you're 21 years old and you still want your weekends to yourself, you want your nights to yourself, why would you go work in the hospital when you can go work for the nursing agency?
Yeah.
So
interesting. You are involved with all kinds of stuff. I was just trying to comprehend one thing. I was thinking how much reading you have to do.
A lot. And
I imagine.
And I love to read like leisurely, right? So I'm a big Kate Morton fan. I'm a big, fan of just reading good books.
Right.
All the Light We Cannot See. That's the one I just finished. And then I noticed that the other night when I actually sat down for the first time in a long time that Netflix actually has a mini series on that book. So that's the type of stuff I love to read, like historical stuff. But I don't get a lot of time to read anymore, like that stuff, because I read a lot of policy.
Yeah, I imagine. Now, okay, I could imagine myself if I was in your shoes with all that reading, trying to juggle life. How do you manage that? And that maybe is that, and I don't want to point out like tough things about being independent, but I imagine if I was part of the party and I didn't do my homework, I didn't read my whatever,
nobody would know.
But I could call up Bob Blue and be like, Bob, what should I know in this? But you must be able to still like.
Yeah,
like you have conversations, I'm sure, with other like colleagues, like you mentioned, being like, whether you read it or not, you must have conversations like, what do you think about this stuff?
Yeah, of course. So, You know,
Like,
I
can only
have
imagine.
conversations with my colleagues around me, and we'll discuss things.
Yeah.
And you know, we can't possibly read everything.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't imagine. That's what
No.
I'm like.
And-
How much, like, do you get it in electronic form or is it
Depends.
printed or?
No, most of it's electronic, right? And so you read stuff electronically, and it's up to you how much you read.
And isn't it hard to read some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Like when I read legal jargon stuff,
Oh, it makes your eyes just want to close.
I tell anybody,
Yeah.
like when we have our real estate contracts, when somebody's having a hard time sleeping, flip to the pre-printed stuff and it'll put you to sleep in
You'll be
like
done.
10 minutes or less.
Narcolepsy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so you know, it's up to you how much you read. But going back to the point,
Yeah.
you know, when I walk into the house, if it's my day to ask a question, if it's my day to, you know, deliver a member statement, it's from here, right? It's from my heart, it's my head, you know, combined, whatever. I write all that stuff myself. And in government, if you're asking a question, if you're asking a lob ball question, that's what we call them, lob balls. If you're asking a lob ball question of a cabinet minister, it's handed to you. You have not penned anything. You're reading what somebody wrote for you.
Right. No doubt. No doubt.
So, you know, as much as it's more work for me, when I deliver a speech where,
It's
you know,
real.
it's real.
real.
It's
Yeah.
raw.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree with me, but it'll be delivered, it'll
Yeah.
be written, and it'll be delivered with a whole lot of
Meaning.
thought,
Yeah.
meaning, and
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
You're good stuff, eh?
Just a small town girl.
Is there, I mean, you've been doing a lot of great stuff. Is there things that you want to talk about in particular? Like you've touched on a lot of good stuff.
I've touched on a lot of things. I don't want to, you know, I'm working on a few things and don't want to really
Talk about
put
that
the
yet?
cart before the horse. But no, I'm just going along every day trying to do the very best for the people of Haldeman, Norfolk, and because they deserve it. Everybody deserves that good return on investment, and
That's awesome. I don't know if I've heard anybody refer to it that way, and I appreciate that a lot because I wish everybody could think that way.
yeah, it's not government money. So one of the things that I often talk about when I go into classrooms, and I love classroom visits because those, you know, it's cliche, but those are our leaders of the future.
Totally.
And, you know, I love it when kids ask me, you know, how much money I make, you know, that type of thing. And I always say to them, you know, if there's one thing, no matter how old they are, whether they're elementary school, they're high school, if there's one thing that I can leave with you is that there is no such thing as government money. There's no such thing. It's your money. It's my money.
It's a great point.
Right? So never ever refer to it as government money because that gives them ownership of your money.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. You're good.
Just not good at numbers today.
That's a minor. That's all
My
good.
mind is mush.
You didn't say the budget would balance itself. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. No, it's, no. I feel I'm very grateful for being given this opportunity. I'm blessed beyond measure. I have two fantastic kids, and
Nice.
you know, a mom and dad, and a brother.
Nice.
Who have supported me wholeheartedly.
That's not
and,
easy.
And put up with my crazy schedule
That's
and
not
put up with
easy.
my crazy. And, you know,
believe it.
for them, I am truly grateful.
Nice.
And I'm also blessed with, or probably 65,000 people in, Haldeman, Norfolk who, really, really, at the end of the day, they may not always agree with me, but they know I have their back. And for the most part, I know that they have mine as well. And that is an amazing feeling because not every politician can say that.
Totally.
And, when I'm having a bad day and, there's a comment on social media that, Bobbi, and people say that we have your back.
It's awesome.
That is the most incredible feeling. Like I say, I think I really represent people who are cut from a really nice cloth.
Actually, that was one thing I was going to ask you too that I forgot. What's like the job description of an MPP? I think you've touched on it a little bit, but like what are...
It's all over the place. Like, you have your duties at Queen's Park that we have gone through. And it's really your own business. Like, being an MPP is what you make of it. So if you decide, you're only going to go out once a week to events, that's up to you. But chances are you're not being reelected.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, those dinners, those fundraising events, those meetings, like I do a lot of meetings during the day when I'm not at Queen's Park. So, hospital board, anything, constituents who are having a problem. I meet with them. We have days where we start at 9:00 in the morning and we're done at 4:30, meeting with people, every half hour or every 45 minutes. So there's that. There's the Queen's Park stuff. There's
at the
events.
end of the day too, like from what I've gathered, because you've helped me understand a bunch of stuff. You're the voice of the people from your area up at Queen's Park and just Ontario. Right. Just so that you can help the people in your area be known for people higher up to know what's going on there, and where they can help. To
take their problems and their issues and their concerns forward, right? And at the end of the day, most people just want to be heard. And they deserve to be heard, right? So, I'll say to some folks who want to meet with me and we finish the meeting and I'll say, I'm not sure how, it's not an issue that I'm going to talk about on the floor of the legislature, but this is what we can do about it.
Right.
We can write a letter, we can bring it to the attention of some folks. And they're happy with that because you've taken the time to meet with them. You've let them be heard. And everybody deserves to be heard when they're paying.
I agree with that totally. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
I have a fun question.
Sure.
I don't think you'll ever be on death row, but if you were, what would your last meal be?
Wow, geez, now you stumped me. Let's just say a good homemade macaroni and cheese.
Yeah? Like made by who? Or
I don't care.
Homemade
as long as it's good. Maybe Jamie Oliver?
Would it have like bacon or lobster or just straight up?
No, it'd have to have some tomato in it. Love tomato.
This is the first time somebody said mac and cheese, I think.
Some really good cheeses, like a real good combination of cheeses. Don't even ask me what the combo would be. That's
just
up to them. Just a good combo,
but nice, cheesy.
It's got to be good, cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care how many calories are in that sucker if I'm on death row.
No, exactly. I love it. Anything else? Like for me, sometimes when I ask people the same thing, one thing, if it was me, I'd fill this table because if they're going to kill me, I'm going to do it myself eating. But would you add anything else in there?
To my macaroni?
Or like
into
any
the
other
conversation?
Things? Like, would you have any, like, I don't know, some people say hamburger, steaks, lobster.
No.
Mac and cheese would be good.
Mac
Anything
and cheese
to wash
would
it
be
down?
Good. Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk's a good one.
Yeah. Love chocolate milk.
Same.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been great and so much fun.
You were awesome. I have a lot of respect for everything you're doing. I really do appreciate you coming a lot. I think that the folks over in your county are very fortunate to have you. Haldeman, Norfolk,
Haldeman, Norfolk.
Haldeman, Norfolk.
Yeah.
Very lucky to have you there.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not sure what your future is all about with everything, but I think whatever you choose to do, I have a lot of confidence in you.
Right. Thank you very much. And I tell people because one of the things that has been said to me time and again from some of my conservative friends is, Bobbi Ann, you continue to hold the government to account like you do, you'll never be asked into the party. And you didn't ask me the question that most people ask me. People say, if you were asked back into the party, would you go?
Okay.
So I'm asking the question of myself, right?
Let's go. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But I do want to address it. So I always say the same thing. Number one, they'd have to want me to come back into the party. And I don't know that that's even a thing right now. Number two, I don't like a dirty house. So if I'm going to walk through the front door, the house better be clean. And
you give me goosebumps.
The most important thing,
Yeah.
the most important thing is, what do my constituents want? Do they want me to walk through the front door, or do they want me to continue on as an independent? And that's going to be a decision that, we may have to make at some point. But right now, we're good. And it's that's usually the top question.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't even thinking.
No, that's okay. You wanted to educate on how things worked, and that's amazing. But that's my answer. And I always say, I don't need to be a career politician. That's where I was going originally with this, is that, some folks say to me, you continue to ask tough questions. You continue to be, genuine. I guess they're accusing me of being genuine.
Yeah.
You're never going to be asked in, it's all about the next election. Not for me.
Yeah,
it isn't for me.
I like that.
I make good money, but is $116,000 worth selling your soul?
Not to me.
No.
Not to you.
Not at all.
You bring up something and we're almost shutting it down.
We were almost shutting it down, but
I'm okay, because I'll tell you something from my perspective. And I don't know who this could offend or not. It's not going to be you. But when I see somebody that's a long-term politician, to me, and I could be wrong, and I don't even need you to agree or not, but to me, what it seems like is the chances of corruption being higher.
Yeah.
I don't, and maybe I'll talk.
I don't know about corruption, but complacency, definitely complacency.
Yeah. This is good.
And that's where you have to really watch where, you got to really, as a taxpayer, you need to say, okay, you know what? My MPP or my MP or whatever, my town councillor has been there for 12 years. Am I still getting that good return on investment?
ROI, yeah.
Are they still asking tough questions? Are they still coming to our events? Are they still taking forward our concerns and our issues? And if they're just, like a dead piece of wood,
right?
Why do you continue to vote them in?
I think that is probably a more appropriate word, complacent, than corrupt. That's a little bit strong, but
I will say, with respect to
there's some
governments,
people,
there's a saying in politics that the rot eventually sets in, no matter how the rot.
Oh.
So you're in power for so long as a government. We always used to say, at some point the rot will set in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when the bottom of the tree is rotten, how do you expect the tree to stand?
Yeah, not going to happen. Not going to happen. So I like that you have that mentality. So if we're opening it back up, if you're out there shaking bacon and causing a ruckus, and for some reason your career did end at whatever point, do I even ask you what you'd want to do?
What would I do? I don't know.
Not sure yet.
There's so many things.
You could do a lot of things. I could tell right now that you would be successful in a lot of areas.
There's so many things in my mind. I have so many interests.
So you'll be fine. I'll
be just fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
It would just mean that there's another plan for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I answered a call and I did it. And then, it's up to the people to decide whether or not that they liked the way I served them. And they liked, what was happening. But if they didn't, that just means there's another plan for me.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I'm okay with that.
Totally.
I don't need to be a career politician. Nobody should be okay with being a career politician just for the sake of it. Some
people go like a long time, a long time. And that's to me, not creating the value. Maybe the corrupt word is not a great one to say for it, but that makes sense. And I like that you're taking it with that type of approach. I don't think you said anything where I'm like, I didn't like that. I thought that I was
Don't ask
expecting.
me what I will like on my pizza, because then maybe we may not agree, right? But I do want to say that one of the things that before you do, one of the things that I've said before I leave this great earth, I want to do two things.
Okay.
I want to see Alan Jackson in concert.
Okay.
So I need to do that soon.
Sounds good.
And I will, I started my book. I started a book this summer.
Nice.
And I do need to finish that. So, you know,
what's the book?
Just me, just all about
An autobiography?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I've got a tip for you.
What's that?
New school is just video. Making
just
video.
talk.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Video. It's like, yeah, video. I mean, I'm not going to discredit a book.
Don't tell me you e-read.
No, I no. But I just say it because I think books are great. I do some reading. There's a couple of problems with books. 'Cause I create a lot of content, right? When I started making content, I had a friend encourage me to make content. When you break content down, you can make it in different forms. And book is like one of them, text. And then like you can create content by doing pictures or video, right? Your story, we've been in here however long, hour and a half. I'm super impressed. I'm sure you have a million other impressive things to talk about, but you can deliver it better through video.
Yeah, true.
And it's actually easier than writing a book, because a book, how long is that going to take you? It's going to take you.
It's going to take me a long time.
A decade, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And you could be telling the story just by hitting record. It's a whole different concept, but you would get, I don't know what you would be trying to accomplish with doing a book versus video exactly. And I'm not trying to stop you from doing it, because there's a lot of good things that come from a book. Yeah. Like you write a book with anything, and like there's accolades that come along with it, but
no, you're right. You
something to consider, and something I would be more than happy to, anytime if you ever need any help with stuff like that, I'm more than happy to help. I've been making video content for 6 years.
I know you're really savvy when it comes to this stuff.
I
feel like I'm getting old to be savvy when it comes to social media and things.
Well, no, it's not that difficult, because I think when it comes to video content, like I didn't want to do it from the beginning. I hated the idea of it. But since I'm trying to help you a little bit, I'll tell you how I started with it too. Like I didn't want to do video at all, right? First of all, like I'm like, who's gonna want to watch me and why? But the why came from, why did I start making content? Because people hire me, my company, to sell their houses and pay us a lot of money to do it. A lot. Like tens of thousands of dollars. And the first thing that we have to do, if you like, your area is out of my area. If somebody calls me to list their house, the first thing we got to do is market a property.
Right.
And it's 2023, soon to be 2024. We're moving forward. And how do you market things in this time and age? It's using the internet. It's using social media. And how do you get a message across the best? Through creating video. And you want to keep taking it extra layers. You could make the best video on the planet, but if you don't have an audience to watch it, so like I started creating videos and all these stupid pizza reviews, eating burgers, eating other foods, jumping in mud, doing stuff, all kinds of stuff. It's so that when we get a listing and we post it, I have an audience of people that are going to see it, right? So that more people have a chance to buy my seller's house, right?
This is brilliant.
Well, I don't know what it is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's like when you talk about ROI on my time for that, it is pennies, but it results thousands for people that hire us.
Absolutely.
Right. So like, yeah, that's what.
And that's your integrity. That's your reputation, right?
Yeah.
People know you've worked hard for them.
Yeah. I mean, there's still people have to learn about all of why, because people, like I've been asked, like when people ask me, why do you make pizza reviews? Like it's got nothing to do with real estate, but that's it. That's the whole thing. It's building the audience.
Right. And everybody loves food.
Yeah. Food. Like I'm
if
a
you
food
don't
addict.
love food, oh my goodness, there's something wrong.
Yes, I do. And I'm going to ask you back to your favorite pizza, but to tie that all in, like if I was writing, like that was the first thing I tried to do when I made content. I'm like, I'm going to write an ebook on how to buy a house, right? Took me weeks. And I'm
when
correcting
you could just say it.
Could just say it. And but like, I don't think you'd have the problem, but a lot of people have the problem with making content. They're a little self-conscious and like they struggle with putting stuff out there. They're worried about this, that, or the other. But that's all part of the process. It's about like anything. You got to get better at it. Like
I think sometimes we worry too much.
oh yeah,
Just do it.
Just do it. And like it just takes a lot of practice in doing it. But like, yeah, I don't want to stop you from doing your book. But if you did videos on it, like, can I give you a piece of advice?
Sure.
This is that book, whatever it is. If you just started once a week posting a video, starting from whatever point, and every week at the same time, like if you decided Monday at 8 a.m., I'm going to post that 1 minute, 3 minute video of that book, and you just kept telling the story every week, one video at a time.
Wow. It could actually turn into a movie maybe.
Whatever, it could go a million different ways, but it would like, there's a lot of people would consume it and be consuming it versus...
Right, because it's
book.
easy.
It's easy.
It's easy just to listen and watch.
Yeah, you ask anybody. The Jays game is on tonight. If you could pick how you want to watch it tonight, do you want to read about it in the newspaper tomorrow, or do you want to? I don't even know. Do you want to listen to it on the radio?
Or listen to the recap. Yeah.
Listen to the recap, or would you like to watch the video live? Almost everybody's going to pick that option because people will pick video. It's the easiest and
Of course.
Yeah. But that's just, I don't know.
That's a good piece of advice. Well, now you got me thinking.
Yeah, something to think about. And I'm happy to help with anything with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
What do you like on your pizza?
So I like a white sauce pizza.
Yes.
And like lots of vegetables.
Fantastic.
Yep.
I think people should eat pizza however they like it. I would eat that. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I would eat it.
So what's your first choice?
Wow. I do eat a lot of pepperoni pizzas, but when it's not for review, I've learned a couple things with pizza. I don't like to put a lot of things on it at once because then a pizza can get soggy and it's harder for it to cook. So I like to try and keep things more simple, even though I used to like crazy combinations. So but I'll eat anything. Like Robin, she loves like pineapple on pizza. I'm down with that and whatever. I'll eat whatever. But top choice, I don't know, pepperoni.
Gotta have hot peppers for me.
Hot peppers are great.
Hot peppers.
I love hot peppers too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, this has been great. Thank you so much.
This was great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.